This is just a quick video on how to go ahead and use statcrunch. Notice that we use statcrunch for two different things. So we use one for means, right? So in the question, I will say the word means, right? So this is what you're going to be using, right? And this is what we call the t-test, right? So since you won't have a computer on during the exam, what I'll give you is the output, right? So I'll go ahead and also post the practice exam so that you guys can see problems like this, right? So just for you guys to be able to do your worksheet, right? Make sure that you do identify your null and your alternative hypothesis, right? Remember that this is usually going to be mu is equal to a number, and mu is either equal to greater than, less than, or not equal to the number. And this number is usually going to be given. This is what we believe, remember? So what we believe or claim in the very beginning, right? So that's what we have. So if you want to go ahead and use statcrunch, right, we're going to go ahead and click on stat. Then after that, you're going to click on tstat, one sample with summary, okay? Then you're going to enter all your data, so the sample mean, the standard deviation, and everything else, right? And then you're going to press compute. So let me give you an example. So let me go to statcrunch, right? The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to click on stat, right? So this is this column, so the third last column. Then I'm going to go to t-test because we're looking for a t-test, right? Then I'm going to go to one sample, and then I'm going to do it with summary, right? Here it tells you, it asks you for the sample mean, right? So let me just make something up. So let's say my sample mean was 20, right? And let's say my sample standard deviation, right? In this case was like, I don't know, 10. And I had 20, let's say 40 samples, okay? So then you just have to adjust the hypothesis test here, right? So this is what usually we claim, right? So let's say we claim that it was, I don't know, 25. I don't know, I'm making stuff up, right? This one you can change it to a less than, greater than, or whatever you want, right? I'm going to leave it as not equal to, right? And I'm going to click on compute, right? And then you're going to go ahead and see your table, right? So here's your table. If I can drag it, I don't know if I can do this, but we'll just go ahead and maximize it. Right? What you're mainly looking at is this portion, right? You're only looking at the p-value, right? So that's what we're really interested in. Whoops, I don't know what I did. Okay, but we're basically looking at the p-value, right? Here it shows you the null and the alternative. Make sure that this is correct. The sample mean, right? So this number should never be the same as this number. It should be something completely different, okay? And then this is what we're mainly looking at, right? Here is our p-value. So this is something that I may give you in the exam. You just have to be able to identify what is the sample mean, what is the null and the alternative, degrees of freedom. Notice if we had 40 people, right? If n was equal to 40, then the degrees of freedom will be 39. And then here's our p-value. If the p is low, we can reject the null, and then we can say that the alternative is the one that wins, okay? So that's just a little bit of steps on how to go ahead and work with statcrunch, right? You just need to be able to get the numbers. Okay, so let me go ahead and get rid of this, right? The other one that we had, let me click on get out of this. The other one that we had was, we had the two proportions, right? So this is also what we call a z-test, right? But I mean, yeah, two proportions z-tests. So we have two populations, P1 and P2. So maybe this one can be males and then the other one can be females, right? So we have two different populations. We're comparing them. The null hypothesis, right, is always going to be, well, P1 and P2 are both equal to each other. And HA, or alternative hypothesis, can either be greater than, less than, or not equal to. So same exact thing, right? So this one, what we're going to do, we still click on stat. Instead of clicking on t-stats, we're going to click on proportion stats, click to sample, and with summary. We're going to enter our data, and then we're going to press compute, okay? So I'm going to go back to statcrunch, right? Click on stat, right? Then go to proportion stats, to sample, with summary, okay? And then we get to put in the number of successes and number of observations of sample number 1, right? And then, so let me just make some numbers up. Let's say this is 10 and the other one was 100. I don't know what this is, but, and the other one maybe was 23 and the other one, and below it was 100 also, I guess. This, never change it. Do not change the hypothesis test. This is always going to stay the same. Leave it at 0. Okay. The only thing that will change is maybe this. If you were looking at less than or greater than, that's something that you might want to look at. But normally it's going to be, this is always going to be 0. Okay. So let's press compute. And this is what we're going to get, right? So here's our output. It tells you the proportion of the successes for population 1. Let me go ahead and just sketch it, right? So here it tells you population 1, here it tells you population 2. It also tells you how many we got, right? Notice that I put in 10 out of the total 100, right? And then 23 out of the total 100. So these things you do want to keep track of. What is sample 1, right? If sample 1 was males, right, make sure that you do state that this is males, right? If sample 2 was females, make sure that you say that sample 2 was females. Okay, and as always, you have the p-value right there, right? Which you can go ahead and compare it with your alpha value. And alpha is always given, okay? Always going to be given, okay? If it's not given, then you need to let me know what, you know, that you need alpha in an exam. Okay, so other than that, that's just basically how you work around with statcrunch when it comes to these two different things. So just practice a little bit. The PowerPoint is posted on Blackboard, so you can go ahead and test it out, you know, play around with it, and yeah, and then you should be able to do your worksheet. So you should be able to have access to the practice exam. If not by tonight, then tomorrow morning, and then we'll go ahead and go over it during the week. Okay.